Welcome to this week's installment of Constant Procession. St. John Bosco was affectionately known as Father by the poor boys. I'd also mention his desire to expand this type of ministry for abandoned girls. The Daughters of Mary, Helper of Christians, was born. For me, one of the joys of a road trip is getting lost in an audiobook reading of a favorite novel or biography. Somehow the drive time evaporates the deeper you get in the story as you travel. And I must say, for me, somehow the world, as it passes by the car window, somehow has a richer vibe. How many of you are audiobook listeners? What are your favorite audiobooks? What are you listening to these days? Let me know in the comments section of this episode's podcast page at nicosteves.com. And the audiobook version of The Very Fine Light is ready for those road trips. Just go to Amazon, Audible, or Apple Books to find it. For those of you just subscribing to these podcasts, here is a bit of background about my book, The Very Fine Light. The Very Fine Light is a contemporary novel with Christian themes about a village on the verge of bankruptcy, the mayor with a secret, and Randy, a fun-loving co-worker who's always in trouble for telling it like it is. There is a special breed of people dedicated to a life especially close to the Lord above. Monks come to mind, nuns too, and of course, priests. In a previous podcast, I spotlighted St. John Bosco, also known as Don Bosco, and his work with abandoned and poor boys in and around Turin, Italy, in the mid-19th century. I'd also mentioned his desire to expand this type of ministry for abandoned girls. And though this was something he knew was needed, it took a special woman to handle the development of this ministry. And in the early 1870s, the Daughters of Mary, Helper of Christians, was born. This ministry grew rapidly and continues today, covering the world with approximately 11,000 dedicated missionaries who provide Christ-centered support services for the poor. The woman, once described as someone who prayed like an angel, was St Mary Mazzarello. Born in the year 1837, she developed a closeness to the Lord within her tight-knit family in the Roman Catholic parish where she found an unending love for God. She had been brought up in the remote farmlands of northern Italy. St. Mary Mazzarello was the oldest of 10 children, and as the eldest, she assisted her mother in the rearing of her siblings. She attended morning mass daily, even though it took 1 hour each way. She made this trip each morning before her chores. This must have instilled in her all the makings that God intended for a future Mother Superior. But of course, that's just the beginning of her story. The future saint's father frequently had difficulties finding day laborers for his vineyard because the men did not like the fact that Mary would outwork them. Their frequent complaint was, quote, "That girl is made of iron. It's all we can do to keep up with her," unquote. When only 18 years old, she was one of the youngest girls in her parish to help set up the Pious Union of the Children of Mary group, as requested by her priest. The members lived with their families, but met daily for Mass to encourage Christian life and perform works of mercy. Their bishop gave his approval to the union, and a friend, Petronilla, along with her, were among the first to join. The other girls in this group became the nucleus for doing good works that helped inspire St. Mary in these transitional years. This compassionate young woman literally gave up her physical health to take care of relatives who were sick during a typhoid epidemic, all the while knowing that most likely she too could contract the disease. And she did. It left her physically weak for the rest of her life. It reduced her physical competitive spirit that she exhibited in her youth while working in her farmers' vineyards, and in order to compensate for her lost vigor, she learned how to sew and rented a small place and started working as a seamstress with friend Petronilla. Before long, theirs was a place where other young girls were sent to learn this trade, and it helped that they were taught by these two about work and worship. The little religious-oriented business found more and more girls wanting to be part of what felt like a little family. Eventually, their good works became a source of income. Before long, several orphans found their way to the door, and an orphanage of sorts developed. These early experiences would help St. Mary's future mission, well beyond just taking care of the orphan girls in her village. Some of the most serious-minded girls from the Union soon left home and started living at the seamstress workshop near the church. St. Mary taught to love the Lord, to support each other, and to be cheerful. One of her sayings was, quote, "I recommend that you work without selfish ambitions, but only to please Jesus," unquote. There is the story of St. Mary on a walk one day, and as she came to the top of a field, suddenly she saw a big building, which she was sure did not exist. Inside was full of young girls all around. She remembered this vision when St. Bosco of the Salesians spoke to her about helping to create a ministry like his, but for girls. St. Bosco learned of her work from her parish priest. He visited the village for the next couple of years to follow her progress, and he had kept in touch with Mary. He had been impressed by how she worked. She respected each child, patiently listening to their worries, helping them overcome those fears, and always reminding them to keep in sight of God. In 1872, Mary, along with 14 others, founded the Order of Daughters of Mary, Helper of Christians. Mary was elected as their superior, but she refused, humbly deferring. However, she accepted the position of vicar only after St. Bosco told her that the order's superior would really be the Virgin Mary. St. Mary Mazzarello incorporated St. Bosco's successful approach with her girls by adding Sunday youth group meetings that introduced honoring the Virgin Mary during the month of May, in addition to prayers followed with games and fun. Like St. Bosco's boys, the girls enjoyed these gatherings so much that they thought of, quote, nothing else but Sunday the whole week through, and became better behaved and pious, unquote. But she also used her own approach called accomplishment. What accomplishment added to the educational approach of St. Bosco was the importance of the sisters being humble role models. This, St. Mary thought, would help to establish confidence in the girls who came to the institution of the Daughters of Mary, Help of Christians. Also, St. Mary told her sisters to approach the children with simplicity, to draw the youth out from their shells. She herself kept things simple and frank. The third and final leg of the accomplishment approach was the freedom to love through the ideals found in the life of the gospel. The hope being the child's experiencing life in Christ that may let the youth discover their own strengths and weaknesses, leading to uncover their personal vocations. When the children felt they were in a circle of love, where they mattered, and where the spirit of Christian worship would foster this way of self-discovery. Years later, as the Institute of the Daughters of Mary, Help of Christians continued to expand, the Mother House was required to move to a more accessible city. The building they rented looked to St. Mary just like the building she had seen years before in the field. Through all the years and growing responsibilities, she only wanted the best for her sisters and the girls. On her deathbed, St. Mary didn't wish for them to be sad, even singing and asking for assistance to wave her hand as she said her final words, "See you again in heaven." But her memory and work continues today. 2020 was the year of the 150th anniversary of the Order. It now includes volunteers in development, education, and solidarity. These members are volunteer missionaries whose programs work together with the members of the Salesian family. Volunteers share by, quote, giving of themselves by living a simple Christ-centered life while serving the poor and marginalized." Unquote. St Mary Mazzarello died during the Madonna's month of May at age 44. My new book, The Very Fine Light, is available on Amazon.com. Please feel free to contact me at NikoSteves.com. That's Nikos Steves, Steves.com. If you like this episode, and for more, share them with friends, and consider William J. Walsh's book, Heaven's Bright Queen, Apparitions and Shrines of Heaven's Bright Queen. This is Nikos Steves. Thank you. See you next time.